Hello and welcome to Spring Office Hours, Season 3, Episode 20. We are live from Spring I.O. My name is Dan Vega, Spring Developer Advocate at Broadcom, joined as always by my good friend in the flesh.
I'm here, but I'm in Barcelona.
You are. You're here in Barcelona.
I'm in Barcelona.
We are live from Spring I.O. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is probably like our third live show that we've done.
They keep on getting better.
They do. We got some professional equipment this time.
Yes.
Thanks to Sergey. Thank you so much.
This is a high-class conference.
Yes.
Things like this don't happen at every conference.
This is my first time at Spring I.O. Is this your second?
That just makes me happy. This is my second time.
Yeah.
And I remember the joy and the residual joy that I had last year. And I've been looking forward to this one ever since.
This is such an amazing conference. I was telling a bunch of people today, normally when I go to a conference, you know, we go to a lot of conferences in the States, and I have to like find my people. I have to like find those tracks, find the like Java people. Then in there, maybe there's a few Spring people, and it's hard to find them. Here, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. Like right here, we've got core Spring team right there.
Yeah.
Like this is amazing. We are with our people.
Thomas is in the chat saying he's joining while he's in a session upstairs. So
that's amazing.
Thomas is always with us. Thanks for joining us,
Thanks,
Thomas. So how's it going?
This conference already is exceeding expectations for me.
Mm-hmm.
Same, good, yeah.
Everybody having a good time?
Good times, yeah.
All right.
My expectations have been met and exceeded already. Yeah, it's been great.
So I think a good place to start is the keynote yesterday. Or actually, let's back up. You did a meetup here.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
We did the Spring Builders meetup.
Yeah.
We had like 30-ish. Again, another great conversation. We had a great audience, great questions, and we talked about kind of where's Spring, where's it going. Mm-hmm. We answered some questions. The big questions like, hey, is Spring still a thing? Like, we heard about Broadcom. Are they gonna... Yes, the answer is yes. We're going to be here. We got a lot of really awesome things coming, but yeah, Spring's not going anywhere.
Cool. We've also both had some interesting trips into Barcelona.
Getting to Barcelona wasn't the smoothest plan, but no problema, say feliz. Right?
There you go.
I'm here. This is a great community. It's been a great time. So yeah, no worries. All
right, so let's start with the keynote yesterday. Some highlights from the keynote.
I'm going to go to my notes.
You got some notes. All right.
I tried to keep track of
I'll kind of kick things off with Jürgen basically kicking off the keynote. Had a bunch of really great stats from the State of Spring survey.
Yes.
I don't have the State of Spring in front of me, but the results are out. I figured when we get back home, we could probably do a show on that as well, really dissecting the kind of state of Spring. But I thought one of the most interesting things out of this was he had compared I think his line was Java 17 is the new Java 8.
Yes.
And we see like a lot more baseline on Java 17, which is really exciting to see.
Yeah. And I'm going to go back even one step because I got to be here for the workshops.
Oh, yeah.
My new opinion is when a conference offers up workshops, you should take them up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Do the workshops.
Yep.
Especially here. They're full day workshops. And some of them were led by Spring team, Tanzu team. You have access to the experts. And a lot of times, the one I was in, we had 20 people, intimate room, coffees, like amazing times. And you had access to the team that was delivering, the observability team.
8 hours of observability. That sounds amazing.
Almost enough. Almost enough. There's still a lot more that I wanted to learn.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So
workshops.
Workshops. Do it. That's right from DaShuan. So I'm going back to the keynote. What were some other highlights for you? I'm just trying to kind of rewind because I had to go on stage. That was a highlight for me. That was a lot of fun.
Getting to see you up on stage, do the welcome, and welcome everybody in.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't know where the best place to run Spring is.
That's true.
It's in production.
In production, yeah. Just kind of going back to the state of Spring, at least from a Java perspective. It's nice to, Java 17 was kind of the baseline, but we saw a lot of people running Java 21, even Java 22 in production.
Oh yeah,
so.
That was kind of exciting.
Yeah,
we had a live
polling. Yeah,
so people were saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to production." There was like 3% are already running 3.3 in production that had only been out for a few days. Like, that's awesome. That's
awesome.
My people. I want to find them. I want to have lunch with them. And the live polling was really, really cool. Another really cool thing from this conference was the badges. Didn't we have one of the attendee badges? The badges.
Gotta get closer.
They took the badges and they said, "Oh, hey, here's half of a letter, and you got to go find somebody else with the other half of that letter to meet somebody." I thought that was a really cool innovation to help people. The hallway track is the most important part of any conference.
It is. This has been a lot of fun out here. Yeah,
I got excited about that.
While we're at it, because he's standing over there, and I just remembered. Shout out to Sergey, who's put on one heck of a conference.
Everybody, Sergey's here. Say hello. Here, come on in.
Hello, everyone. How are you all doing?
This conference is amazing, and you do a wonderful job with it. Thank you so much for having us.
This is cool. Like, let's just hang out here for a little bit. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Oh, look at that shirt too. I got one of those shirts. Yes.
I'm the Chief Spring Officer.
And if you were here, you get one of those.
Yeah.
But you had to do the
matching
tag matching. I think that's a great innovation. Thank you. For
that.
Thank you. And he is a lot busier at this conference than you would expect.
Yeah.
He's given the full hands-on. I'm here to support you. You have issues. You have this app that you can do direct, ask the organizers anything.
Yep.
And I saw that one of the questions was, I really like those green pants. The guy that was
the MC
he's wearing green pants, and somebody said, I like those green pants. Where do I get green pants?
Green pants are awesome.
The access to the organizers, amazing.
By the way, we did not coordinate this.
It just happened. We're kind of like that.
We're just synced up right now, I guess. So cool. So we have a whole bunch of people joining us, and I got a bunch of questions here. I want to go to one of these. What's the coolest new feature you guys have seen so far?
I know what my favorite is.
I know what mine is.
Mine is the class data sharing.
Oh yeah, pretty cool.
That's my number one, hands down. I'm trying to go to production. I don't have a lot of money, so I want all the performance and footprint benefits that I can get.
Yep. For me, it was the new changes in Spring AI. So Spring AI released 1.0,
that's a close second.
milestone 1, and there's a new Fluent API in there, which makes it so much easier to kind of build this kind of call. And included in there are these advisors, so I can easily add RAG to my call. There's a whole bunch of new features in M1, and they showed a lot of them off yesterday. And so I'm really excited to get back and kind of rework all my demos to include those new features.
Another thing that I'll take away as a theme for this conference is the amount of work that the Spring teams have done to go and clean up the backlog. Yeah, I heard it first from the observability team that they were able to pull some long-standing issues, pull them forward and get them into this latest release, and then
Jürgen
yes.
reiterated that yesterday during the keynote and said, hey, we took the opportunity to go back and pull all these things back into this release.
Jürgen was passionate about the way that we load beans. The thing that we have taken for granted for 20 years.
Yeah.
He was passionate about these tiny little tweaks. And he was excited to share that we've had customers that have these issues of hundreds of beans, thousands of beans being initialized. And the initialized process was difficult for them. And now it's fixed. And when he said that, the smile on his face made my heart warm because we are so lucky to have him.
He's very passionate about anything he talks about. We were just chatting about something random yesterday and he's like so into it. So
we are lucky to have him.
Yeah, for sure.
And being able to oh, that issue will never, I've been there. Like, oh, that issue will never get pulled in. I opened it 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But somebody woke up recently and saw that their issue has been closed and it's in the milestone release.
Yep.
And that made somebody's day.
Yep. Yeah. So what else during the keynote? We had, so Jürgen came up, did a whole kind of state of Spring where we are. And then we got into some demos, starting with, I believe, Brian and was it Brian that started our demos off?
No, Sebastian.
All right.
Yep. All
so
the
Sebastian
runtime
got
efficiencies.
into runtime stuff. And I saw some pretty crazy numbers up there.
Sebastian went too fast. I'm just going to say it. He went too fast.
We had a session this morning, so you could have.
If you thought he went too fast and you didn't get to his session at 9 a.m. this morning, that's your fault.
Well, the good news is all the talks here at Spring IO are recorded, including that keynote we were just talking about.
That's already live.
Already live on YouTube, which is crazy.
Unbelievable.
And all these sessions will be up at some point. So I can't wait to go back and watch that session because I was in a different session this morning. So
after Sebastian was Brian and Stefan.
We were talking about this last night, I think. Like, I just love the chemistry between them. Like, somebody's coding.
But it's not like them.
We got to figure that out, how one can code and one can talk at the same time. Because they do such a great job of explaining a feature and then actually showing you, like, the code.
And the little, like, jokes,
the
like,
little banter.
I forgot how to do bash. Like, whatever it is. I love watching them.
Yeah.
Because again, they're on the latest and greatest. They've been deep in the code. They're not making this demo to show you some code. They've been deep in the code and they're telling you all the reasons why. And they're showing you how to get the benefit, which is amazing.
Yep.
I love watching that.
Yeah, so that was really great. I know they had a session here as well on refreshing your Spring application. I've seen a version of that on YouTube, but can't wait to watch that replay. Yeah.
The room was packed.
Yeah. All right.
After that was Rawson.
Rawson taught GraphQL, one of my favorite subjects. I also went to his session this morning on GraphQL. So, but yeah, he kind of highlighted some of the new features. So in Spring Boot 3.3, the new version of GraphQL is there, which is 1.3. And that includes, I think, GraphQL Java 21 or 22, which has some new features as well. So he showed off some of those new features.
And the synchronization, right, with Netflix and what they were doing around.
Yes. So both kind of so he told the story this morning much better than I will, but Netflix kind of open source DGS in, say, 2020. At the same time, they were kind of building Spring for GraphQL. And now they've gotten to the point where there's kind of feature parity. Even on the Spring for GraphQL side, there's some extra features, right? Yep. And so they started working with the Netflix team and saying, we have these two separate projects, but let's see if we can coordinate efforts a little bit better. So now Spring for GraphQL is kind of the transport layer. And I believe at Netflix, they're starting to opt into some of this. So now you can use the DGS components or the Spring for GraphQL controllers side by side without having to pick and choose one.
I think everybody knows Netflix. Netflix is a streaming company.
Yeah, they show videos.
I think they have a third of the internet traffic, something like that. But this is another aspect of what the Spring team does at conferences and with enterprise customers from around the world. A lot of the patterns and principles that are built into Spring came from the community, came from organizations that do batch workloads at scale. They're like, hey, here's what we've done. Here's the things we need. Can we get that into our framework so we can do it more often and easier and get the benefits. Let's work together.
Yep. And I think, from the Spring side of things, Rawson kind of pointed out it's really beneficial to us too, because we see Spring for GraphQL at scale now. It's working at scale. So that's pretty exciting to see.
It's amazing. After that
was Cora. Oh, our coworker. She killed it.
And when I say she killed it, what I mean is she talked about Spring Modulith.
Yep.
In the right way for the amount of time she had. She hit all the major points. I think she did a great job of making it easy to understand. And I think she might have encouraged a few people to use it. She did an amazing job of hitting. And this is one of my favorite projects. Like this is one of the things that I'm spending a lot of time on. And she was a 10 out of 10 delivering that.
And I think there are so many projects in the ecosystem. You always have to start with a why. Like, don't just tell me I need to go use something. Give me a use case for it. Tell me why I have to use it. Then show me off some of the features. And I thought she did a really good job of that.
She did amazing.
And I saw a ringing endorsement from Ollie on Twitter.
Yeah.
Saying Cora just killed it because he already watched the replay of her doing it. So Spring Modulith. Where are we at with that? Like 1.2. 1.2. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
And the big thing for me coming out of this release is the inter-module observability. So when I go hit one module and that calls another module inside of the same JVM, I can still have that traceability. So I can see where things need help.
I thought a big highlight for me was the ability to pull in legacy code because now being able to migrate to a Modulith makes it so much easier because I can just take that legacy project, pull it in, and then start pulling out modules one at a time without having. She explained it really well. Like most of the time, you got to stand up 2 services and split traffic, and that sounds like not a lot of fun.
And of her trying to figure out the naming, I like the braid one the best.
The braid one,
right? Like, hey, let's apply Spring Modulith. Let's see what we can get out of this application. But also the visualization, the creating the UML for us so we can see what our system is doing.
Right.
That's a massive benefit. So now we can have that module visibility. We can start to see where things are broken. And we can start to improve our monolith.
And if you want to hear Cora do more on that, she already did a session today. But in the future, you can watch the replay on YouTube. So definitely, I'm going to check that out. So
cool. I think Cora handed it off to
Josh and Christian. So Christian's from the Spring AI team. Josh is Josh. Everybody knows Josh. And they did some demos on Spring AI. And in true Josh fashion, I mean, just killed it. Like, he does such a great job of being able to tell a story and put in his little jokes here and there and live code faster than any human being I've ever seen on my life.
One of the other comments was Josh types too fast.
Yeah.
And hey, Sergi, tell Josh to slow down.
I got a comment here in the chat that says Josh Long coming onto stage wearing shorts during a keynote was pretty bad. Bleep.
That's the way he rolls.
So I thought they did a really nice example of a pet clinic, kind of a pet vet, right? A pet store.
Agency.
That's what I was looking for.
The adoption agency.
And he just made some jokes about his dog, and that was hilarious.
Josh did amazing. Christian has put so much effort and work into Spring AI. I have found Christian. I'm starting to do this AI stuff, and I was using some other things for the session I'll be doing later. And I found some issues from 8 years ago. Christian has been doing AI and ML long before Spring AI came around. The experience that he brings to this project isn't just like, hey, we've got an abstraction. It's, hey, here's the use cases. Here's the things that we see in the community. Here's what we need to do. He brings so much to this project. We are so blessed to have him.
I know. And
I think he did a great job.
I'm glad he's here talking to everyone too, because as you said, most people, when they hear Spring AI, they probably think of Mark Pollock because he's kind of the lead of the project, right? And rightfully
also amazing.
Rightfully so. But every time that I'm on internal chats with someone about Spring AI, it's either Mark or Christian, and Christian's all over this. So really exciting to see. And again, really excited to see all of the new features in M1. I cannot wait to get to some of the stuff. Speaking of, I didn't mention it before. One of the new features they added was a chat memory. So the one thing that you got to know about LLMs is they're all stateless APIs, right? So if I ask it a question, I go, hey, my name is Dan and I'm doing this. The very next time, if I ask it a question and say, what's my name again? It's not going to remember because this is stateless. But you take that for granted when you go to something like ChatGPT because you type in a question and it remembers that context the next time. And that's because it's remembering the state. That is not the model. That is the application that is remembering that. So Spring AI has added chat memory to this. So now I can kind of send that context along every time and keep a conversation going.
In the past couple of weeks, a lot of features kind of came to the front and they got put into this milestone release. Like it made leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And they had to communicate with all the other friends and partners
Yep.
that we've been working with to say, hey, we're going to break a few things.
Yep.
But here's something that you might not have heard on stage.
Right.
For those of you that don't know, the Spring team, engineering team, is distributed. There's no Spring office somewhere that has the most brilliant minds in the world in one office. That doesn't happen. They are all over the world.
Yep.
And they don't get to see each other all that often.
Yeah.
Spring IO is one of those conferences where like, hey, I'll see you at Spring IO. And recently, the reason why we have some of those big leaps and bounds in Spring AI is because Mark traveled to work with Christian so they could work on the same schedule and be side by side. The benefits of working in proximity are there. Now, so that what I'm trying to say here is I love remote.
I was going to say, are you going to come to Cleveland now?
But if I need to, right? Yeah. If there's such demand for a Spring office hours, that the community needs it, I will show up in Cleveland and I will make it happen.
That'd be great. You just can't come in December. It's kind of
I will not be there in December.
Although you have the same weather as I do. So.
But this idea of remote versus proximity, I love the remote. Proximity when it's necessary. Yeah. Just like Mark and Christian did recently. Yeah. Thank you for that. But yeah.
You know, we're talking AI. I think, you know, we're still in the keynote, but I was in the session yesterday as you were. And one of the things I learned is like, we have all these like portable abstractions in Spring AI. What I didn't know is just how ugly some of that low level code to interface with all these different vendors was. And Mark kept reiterating like, be thankful that you don't have to write.
You don't have to deal with.
And that's something that all Spring projects do. They kind of take away and give me that abstraction, so I don't have to deal with like, how do I interface with this and that and that. And I can just write features, which is really great.
That's why I love my job.
Yeah,
it's a great time to be a Spring developer.
It always is.
And I don't think it's ever been better.
Yeah.
And this conference is kind of it highlights that.
I don't know why this is sticking out to me, but during Josh's presentation, he was writing some like data stuff and he wrote dog repository and he said, doesn't dog repository just sound so cute? And that really stuck out to me. So yeah, really entertaining. That was awesome. Got another question. What is hot fire in the Spring's future pipeline? I think some of the things that I saw yesterday from Sebastian, he kind of showed off. Again, we have class data sharing in 3.3, forward looking to 3.4. And I know he did this in a session today, but I didn't get a chance to see it. Talking more about Project Layden and the work they're doing with JDK, the Java development kit, the team at Oracle. I believe like some of those numbers he threw out there too were like, hey, I saw a 70% reduction in memory in startup. Like that was insane. So I think a lot of the work that we're doing in the area of runtime efficiency keeps getting better and better.
So what's fire right now is that all you have to do to get these benefits is upgrade.
Yeah.
There are so many benefits that are coming that you don't have to work or turn on. You just get it if you just keep on upgrading.
Yeah.
Just by getting to production on Spring Boot 3.3 today could be an advantage. Maybe it's those milliseconds. Maybe it's that little bit of advantage, that little savings that you have on your infrastructure.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are going to make the difference. It's a bunch of those little tweaks.
We had somebody stop by the booth right before the show, and you were like, do you know about Open Rewrite? And they said no. And you're like, what?
How?
DaShuan jumped on the table and started giving them a demo of Open Rewrite.
So, let's go.
Yeah. Get to the latest version as much as you can.
Absolutely. I want to live that N-0 life. I want to be on the latest and greatest of everything all the time.
Yep. All right. So what else? What sessions have you been in?
After the keynote, I went and saw the refresh with Sebastian or with Stefan and Brian.
Yep.
It was packed room. It was great.
And this was more covering like a lot of the new features
Yep.
and the latest versions.
They answered questions. They did their thing. They were awesome to watch.
Yeah.
And the conversations, right in the back of the room, there's a little bit more conversations that are happening.
Yeah.
So I got to just like listen to see what people were doing, and the idea that some people are still using Dockerfiles, that definitely came up. But I didn't have to say anything. They were sharing between themselves. We really should get onto Buildpacks.
Yeah.
And
Well,
benefits, because if you're using the Paketo Buildpacks, you're getting a lot of these benefits out of the box.
Yeah.
Otherwise, which I've seen customers and community do it, they go and they open up the Buildpack and I'll just do that in my Docker file.
Yeah.
Why?
No, that doesn't
Why?
work. What do we always say? Friends don't let friends write
They
Docker files.
don't let friends use Docker files.
At least from a developer standpoint, right?
If somebody gives you a Docker file, you bat it down.
I mean, if you're in like DevOps and this is your job, cool.
Even
But
then,
for us developers, we don't. No, you don't
Yeah,
need to do that. So yeah. After that, what else?
where did I go after that?
We had lunch and then I had my session yesterday. So
How did your session go?
It went really good. Had a pretty packed room. I did a talk on kind of navigating the front end landscape for Spring developers. So if you are a Spring developer and you build like this back end API and you want to build a front end for it, like what are your choices? And it may seem obvious to some who are in that space who work on front ends all the time. But for those who don't work on front ends and they need to build some type of front end, I just wanted to give like a high level overview of like, here are your choices. So on the Java side, like if you have Java skills and you want to build the front end, and we mentioned Spring MVC, we mentioned our friends at Vaadin who are here, who have a booth. Marcus has given a talk. So I mentioned Vaadin and how to get started with that. And then on the JavaScript side, I actually opened up my talk with how many people think the world of front-end development on the JavaScript side moves too fast and it's a little bit too confusing, and everybody raised their hands. So I just wanted to give some kind of perspective and like, here's some of my favorite tools and here's some easy ways to get started. And then of course we mentioned HTMX. So it was a lot of fun.
One of the things that I learned late in my career is the value of having a front end to go with all the great work that you do.
Yeah.
I saw it yesterday, Alina's demo.
Yeah.
It was a simple front end, but it was just enough to take it to the next step. The idea that if you can deliver a front end with the great back end work that you're doing, at least as a starting point, there's massive value in that. So if you're doing something cool, you're using Spring Boot 3, put a front end on it. Make it so you can give a good demo.
It's kind of like put a ring on it.
If you like it, then you should have put a front end on it. Hi, Josh.
Our friend Josh is
Put
here.
a bird on it. Hi.
How's it going? Good. We were just talking about you. All good things. Though,
all good things. All good things.
So it was a great talk just to kind of give everybody like, here are some options. And at the end, I said, all right, now I'm going to tell you the one option that you can go to every single time, which is it depends. It depends. What are you building? Depending on like your team size and like, do you have people on your team that have JavaScript skills, or is it just a Java team, right?
Yep.
Because then it makes it pretty easy. So
there's benefits. Put a front end on it. I think where I was during that session, I was with Thomas Vitale and
in a packed room.
Yeah. And I was on the floor.
Yeah.
It was packed. They were talking about Dapper.
Well, if you're on the floor, you're still higher than most
Yes,
people.
I had a great seat. I sat right in the front, right in front of the stage. I wasn't going to miss it. But yeah, they had a packed session. Great questions.
What was their talk on?
Dapper.
Oh, okay.
And it scratched an itch that I think I might have. I think I'm itchy now.
All right. I'm going to be the dumb person in the room, but what is Dapper?
It's a pattern for exposing certain services in discovery to your Spring Boot apps.
Oh, nice.
So they've got this little sidecar and a cool client that you can abstract away your data services, for example.
Cool.
Messaging and key value stores were the ones that they showed. And yeah, you get an easy to deliver services.
Nice.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got its own client. Backends are abstracted away. Consistency, cloud events, really cool stuff. And I think I have an itch that I need to scratch. So stay tuned.
Yeah, you can add it to the list of things that you want to play with. Right?
Ooh, yes.
I mean, that
we'll
list
take it to
keeps
production.
growing for me. So.
Yes, and it does work with Raspberry Pi.
Cool. Yeah. Some other sessions. We were both in Lena's talk on GraalVM.
I think that was what was next. Yes,
that was
awesome.
Great. She was in the auditorium, packed house, did a really great job of kind of explaining, and somebody asked me the other day, like, what do you try to get out of a session? I'm looking at a session with two different hats on. As a speaker, I'm always trying to pick up things from speakers.
Absolutely.
To just kind of improve my like presentation skills. And then from somebody who wants to learn something, I'm always just trying to like pick up that one thing.
If I can just
get one
thing
thing out of a talk, then it was worth me sitting through.
So I'm going to go back to Josh. I've seen Josh demo 100 times this year.
Yeah.
But I'm still not going to miss a demo from Josh because he's always improving it. He's always got a new cool thing. And when he learns something new, he goes back and he starts to share it. So as long as I can keep on watching his demos, he's going to keep on sharing the new cheat codes, and I'm going to keep on learning.
Right.
Even if it's just one thing,
right,
every once in a while, it's worth it.
Yeah, I think one thing that I picked up out of that talk was like I always knew that going to native images, there's a reason for that. Like we talk about it all the time with customers. What are some of the use cases for it? But I guess what I didn't realize was that you could use GraalVM for JIT compilation and get some pretty impressive performance out of that.
Yeah. Back when we were still doing Spring Native.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Graal JDK is awesome.
Yep.
And fast and great. So yeah, even if you're not doing native images, there's still an amazing JDK. And what I like to say about JDKs is it's one size fits most.
Yep.
Find one that you like, find one that covers your use cases, but there's tons out there and you should really find the one that benefits you the most.
Yep. And you know, another little tip I picked up from her talk was that you can install like the preview versions of GraalVM.
And I did.
From SDK Man. I didn't know that.
As soon as she said it, I did. I installed it.
You love running the latest and greatest.
I like to be on N-1. And I've seen Josh do demos with snapshots for years.
Yeah.
Why not me?
Well, speaking of Spring, I got a comment here that I just want to read out. I'm reading plenty of Spring documentation during the past couple of weeks. The colleagues who are in charge of the documentation are doing a great job.
Absolutely. +1. Thank you so much. They have spent so much time working on the documentation, and this has been a years-long effort.
Yeah.
And it shows.
And there have been a lot of upgrades lately in the Spring documentation. The move to Antora, being able to provide some search functionality.
This is amazing.
Yeah, so all the individual teams, the people who are working on the documentation, awesome job. Okay, so next session I think we were both in was right after that was Christian and Mark's talk on Spring AI.
We skipped one.
Daniel. Oh, that was earlier, right?
That was before Alina.
Yeah.
Daniel's talk on Spring Security
was so good. He just has a way of being able to explain things, and he has like very simple slides. He's just very good at like kind of explaining each topic and kind of taking it step by step.
And he flows between live coding and slides. Everybody has a different style. Everybody learns differently.
Yeah.
His style of flowing between slides and demo and slides and demo, and he goes and he re-hits everything. I like it. I'm a big fan.
And I did an interview with Daniel on this show a few weeks back, and I told him, I'm like, hey, I don't know that I've ever seen anyone live code as well as Daniel does. And I'm like, tell me your secret. He's like, I practice. And then 2 days before an event, I practice 2 more times. So yeah, I really took that to heart, and he is just a whiz in the editor and can fly around there. But again, back to kind of Spring Security, I mentioned, I've been telling a lot of people this here. No matter what video I make on YouTube, I can have a video on Spring AI. Somebody in the comments goes, hey, I have this question about Spring Security. And I'm like, okay, wrong place, wrong time. But yeah, Spring Security is always one of those things I get questions on because there are so many use cases and so many different things that you can use it for. And I thought his talk was, all right, let's get back to basics. Instead of just saying like, how do I do this in Spring Security? Let's understand how Spring Security works. So the next time that you need to do something, you really understand how it's working.
That session is probably a good session to bookmark.
Yes.
When it's live.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he does a good job of explaining. And here's the core components.
Yep.
And here's what you need to understand about those so that you can continue to move forward.
Yep.
And Spring Security, upgrades happen and there are a lot of changes.
Yep.
Don't look for the one-to-one, but you can upgrade. Find the patterns because a lot of times, it's going to be maybe not as easy as upgrading some of the other things. But once you've upgraded it, figure out that pattern and then apply it to the rest.
Yep.
And if you need help, Call me.
Or just randomly comment on one of my videos. All right. So then, after the GraalVM talk, it was Christian and Mark.
Yes.
They kind of did a more deep dive on all of the things Spring AI with the 1.0 release.
I got crowned the #1 fan
You,
Mark, Christian, and Spring AI. I'm pretty sure if you were there, you heard it.
I think everybody has
Live,
crowned
yep.
you #1 fan.
Yes.
You're very supportive in the front row there.
I love my job. Like I look at the things that this team does, and I realize that this team doesn't have to be here. Right? They could go and do many other things, and I am grateful that they do what they do for us. So when we have teams spending time traveling across the world to give us all of these cool features, that is amazing.
Yeah,
and I'm grateful for it.
Just sitting here, look at all the Spring team members
The
just
things
kind
that
of
it's just
standing around.
happening. I feel upgraded. I said it yesterday. I just being in the same room, I feel like I'm being upgraded somehow. I'm getting better at Spring, and I'm gonna have a better time going to production just because I'm here.
Yeah, I don't know that
I can't put my finger on it.
I don't know that I've ever been at a conference with such a great lineup of speakers. It's kind of intimidating. And I spoke
84
here.
speakers.
Yeah.
84 speakers.
Yeah.
We have attendees from 59 countries.
That's crazy.
All here.
Yep.
All about Spring.
Yep. So the Spring AI session, I don't think I have anything else to say on that because we kind of talked about all those.
I do.
Wait.
I love the background story. I love the whole journey. I love where it matched up with Spring CLI. Like these are exciting things that not everybody gets to hear.
Yeah, you're right.
Hear those things until you come to
right.
the conference.
Mark started off the talk by kind of talking about how he got into this project.
And he has so much experience with so many of the projects that we're lucky that it came out. But also there was problems during the demo.
Yeah, demo.
There was problems during the demo.
We all have them.
And you know what I learned?
Imagine
a demo that worked. And that's if I ever run into a problem, that's my pivot.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, these things happen. And I thought the best part about that was after they were done, you went up and gave Christian a hug.
Absolutely.
We all feel for him in that scenario. So that was also a highlight of Christian needs a new laptop. So.
Christian needs a new laptop.
Cool. So cool to meet the Spring team in person at Spring IO. Inspiring conversations for sure.
Yeah, it's also cool to meet Alexander
because
exactly. He's amazing. If you haven't checked out his GitHub, you should check out his GitHub repo. Maybe we'll get that into the show notes.
Yeah.
Lots of cool stuff and a lot of cool projects around Spring AI. One of my favorites is in his repo.
What is it?
The newsletter maker.
Oh, nice.
He uses Spring AI to go and grab URLs and pull out topics and generate a newsletter. Hey, here's what we found on that topic.
That's awesome.
It's a really, really cool project, really easy to get going. And it does a good job of explaining some of the benefits that you can get. And it's a good use case.
Yep.
Even today on a milestone release of Spring AI.
Yep. Yeah. We've been talking about that. If you go over to Spring.io, the blog, there is a new blog post from Mark on all the new features. I don't know if Mark wrote it or Christian on all the new features in Spring AI M1. So go check that out. There's a really good recap of everything we kind of just talked about. So cool. That brings us to today.
I haven't seen anything today because we were here getting set up.
Yeah.
I'm working on my demo for later.
All right.
And we've had a lot of good conversations at the booth.
Yeah.
This is kind of my normal conference thing when we're
just
traveling. I like to be at the booth. I like doing demos. I like answering questions about whatever it is. Hey, you're worried about, should I have this kind of power plug or that kind of, like some of these things I'm happy to talk about. Right. And the thing that I said earlier today was like, when you're at a conference, I think the hallway track is an important part.
It is the best part.
You have people that are here that probably have seen that issue once or twice before, and they might be able to help. But if you don't ask, that's your fault. You're here. You have access to people. Raise your hand.
You have access to people writing the code for whatever project that is.
Yes.
So yeah.
I like hanging out at the booth. I enjoy hanging out at the booth.
Yeah.
I enjoy hearing questions.
And for me, I don't know if this is the same for you because you were here last year, so you probably saw a lot of people last year. But I met so many people this week that I've like talked to online.
Famous people.
Forever. And I'm
famous
like, oh,
people.
it's the first time you're a real person.
I know them from their GitHub repo or their Twitter profile, but they're famous. I'm like, oh, I just got a selfie. Right. This is amazing.
Somebody came up to me earlier and was like, "Oh, I love your videos. I've been watching your videos. You're a real person." I'm like, "Yes, I'm not AI generated. I am here."
Oded is right here in the front row. And I knew Oded from Twitter, from GitHub.
Yep.
Before we worked together at Pivotal.
Oh yeah.
And our journeys kind of blended together. But like Oded, like when he started working on the scene, I'm like, this is amazing. He was a Spring developer long before he worked for Pivotal.
Yep.
Everybody out here, you guys are Spring developer advocates. Even though you don't work for VMware, or you may not work for VMware, you're a Spring developer advocate. Just by coming to this conference, you have a responsibility, whether you choose to accept it or not, you have a responsibility to take what you've learned back to your team. Take it back. Let them get leveled up. Tell them the things that are excited. You've got context around your workflows, your path to production. You've got to take and absorb the things you've learned here. You've got to take it back to your team.
Yeah.
And that's how you become a Spring developer advocate.
I think one of the pieces of advice I always give to people is you do not need permission to advocate for the things that you're passionate about.
That's
So anything that you're
I like the way
passionate
you
about,
said that.
just advocate for it. You don't need
That's good.
permission.
That was good.
And you never know where it's going to take you. It's
Look at
taking
us.
us here. So
Man, that
if we can do it, anybody can.
absolutely. When I started this job, the thing that I said, my mission was if I could find one person that was half as excited as I am about Spring, I've done my job.
I don't know that you'll ever find anyone half as excited.
I
as
have
Spring
definitely,
about
I've
you.
found it. I have found many of them. I have found many of them. There are, yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah,
And I think there's a lot of people like me
that's true.
in the community that are just like excited that they don't have the toil,
In this building.
especially in this building. The idea, I like the way Josh puts it. He's like, when I'm using Spring, I feel like I'm pair programming with the Spring team. Sometimes I do. I feel like, what would Jurgen do in this situation? And I look at some code and I look at his notes and yeah, that's what Jurgen would do.
Jurgen would smile and be very happy about whatever
That
he's
feels
doing.
good. I like that.
Yeah.
Let me change that variable name.
Yep. So this morning I got to sit in one session.
What did you watch?
I was the very first person in the room, in the very
Of course you
front
were.
row.
That's
for Rawson's talk on GraphQL because
That's what we do.
I wanted to learn what some of the new features were. And you already know this because I was talking about this with Spencer in Detroit last year. One of the features I was really looking forward to was GraphQL Federation.
Absolutely.
And Spring for GraphQL now supports that in 1.3.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. So normally you stand up a service and you have an API in the service, right? But as we start to kind of build out microservices, we have all these different services. Each independent service wants to have their own GraphQL API. So now what you do is you have a gateway, and that gateway still has a GraphQL API, but it defers to every other service when it needs to. So Netflix, again, does this at scale really, really well. They have a single endpoint for a GraphQL API, but then they span out to all the different services to handle this. Similar to how we would do this in REST at an API gateway level.
Yes. Come here.
So, yeah, I was really excited about that. Being able to, I knew that feature was there, but I also didn't know how that feature worked. So I thought Rawson did a really good job of explaining that feature and how it works. And there's a repo out there with a whole bunch of code in it. So
I am a fan.
that was
Sorry.
exciting.
Tim DeBeats over here.
No, it's
and
all
I just, yeah, I know we're busy, but
You're
Come here.
fanboy. You're fanboying.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
So yeah, that was fun. Excited about GraphQL. Yeah,
I love our job.
Yeah,
I love this community. This conference is amazing. I am crossing my fingers, and I did my wish list already. I'm going to write it into existence. I want to be here next year.
yeah, for sure. Somebody came up to me earlier and was talking about like, hey, it's really overwhelming to learn like all of these different things that the ecosystem has to offer. I'm like, it is my full-time job to do this, and I'm overwhelmed. So yes, I understand that you're overwhelmed.
Wouldn't it be cool if you had a show, a live stream, maybe
Some
that you could go
podcasts.
and ask questions
Yeah,
about all the things, or not ask questions? Wouldn't it be cool if you just had like, hey, here's some of the cool stuff that's happening in the Spring ecosystem? Wouldn't that be neat if you had that just every week? Maybe you didn't even catch it live. Maybe you just downloaded it,
maybe you were on the run.
podcast. Yeah,
In the
you listen to
car.
it during your run. That'd be cool.
If you found such a show and you liked it, maybe you could leave us a review. That'd be cool.
That would be fancy.
All right, I got a comment here. Listening to DaShuan sometimes make me feel bad that I'm not using Spring.
Why? Oh, Emma, thank Emma. I'm a fan. We'll get there, Emma. We'll get there. We'll get there. Sometimes it takes time.
Yeah,
and it's not your fault. Yeah, I want to keep my job too. All right, we'll do the little things that help our organization understand the value of using a framework like Spring.
All right, so you have a talk this afternoon, 2:00.
Yes.
What's your talk on?
I'm going to talk about Spring Boot on the edge.
All right, explain. What is that?
What is the edge?
What is the edge?
We don't need to. I'm gonna quote one of my favorite people. Who wants to argue about made up words? Like, we're gonna talk about interesting places that you can take Spring Boot.
Ooh, like to Florida.
Like, for example, a trip in my airplane recently. I loaded up a Spring Boot application, and I'll show this later. That was connected to my webcam on my laptop. So while I'm flying, I said, "Hey, here's the URL. If you want to see me crammed in economy minus, you can hit this URL," and then it takes a picture on my laptop. But it was public to the world, and I'm flying in a jet plane in the clouds. It is Spring Boot in the cloud.
Spring Boot Air.
Spring Cloud. Spring.
Oh, Spring Cloud.
Like, it's interesting places, right?
Yeah.
Where you don't always have a great internet connection, but sometimes you don't need a great internet connection. You still do interesting things. And I had it running on my laptop, and I was able to do some interesting metrics, like how many requests made it to the plane, how many were successful, how many weren't.
Yeah.
And I was making hot deploys as I was flying, because I can do that with Spring Boot.
Yeah.
It was fun. So this is just an example of what you see, all the interesting places. And I will show a demo of using Spring Boot with native images on a $15 US Raspberry Pi Zero.
Nice.
So you have this opportunity. If you knew it or not, you have an opportunity to take Spring to really interesting places.
You know, I think there are a lot of things we take for granted. And being here, seeing representation from all over the world, internet speeds is definitely one of those. Like, we're just so used to like always being connected and always being on high speed. Like, we forget that not everybody has that. And so
or stable.
Right?
Yeah, some of the folks that are in the stream, I'm like, hey, yeah, let's hop on a video chat. And hey, the internet's not working, or rolling power outages. Like, these are things that I thankfully don't have. I have 2 internet connections coming in my house.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about these things. They don't affect me very often, but I know that in a lot of places they do affect people. So that's why I really like spending a lot of time on Raspberry Pis, because they're affordable, low power, and it also teaches me some of the things that you might have to deal with. Well, what do you do with your data when the internet goes out? How do you handle the data when the internet is not there? How do you eventually get the data where it needs to go? Do you stop your workloads when there's no internet connection? Do you stop doing work?
Yep. I've seen some pretty crazy pictures. I don't know why it's showing up on my feed lately, but of people just doing raids of Raspberry Pis. I saw like a 5 raid yesterday.
Yep. There are a lot of interesting, and it's affordable. Like, I can, and I said it, like, I can do experiments and not worry so much, but there's also a lot of enterprise grade things that you can do. Yeah. And we have customers that are using devices like this in production at scale. So
let me ask you one question. Do you host some of your apps on your Raspberry Pis at home?
Yes. So,
because one of the questions I've gotten a lot from developers this week is, hey, I'm starting this new project, but I don't want to pay $50 a month for it. I have $0 to pay for this.
Yes.
Where do I put it?
So yes, the answer is yes. So javagrunt.com is where I do my experiments. But that is running on Raspberry Pi clusters at my house, running on Knative. So it scales down, it's scaled to 0, and it scales up when you hit it.
Yeah.
So there's a little, blip at the beginning when it's loading that image.
Yeah.
But for what I'm doing, like, it's worth it. And I get that question a lot. Like, hey, where do I put it? And maybe a $15 Raspberry Pi is enough.
Yep. Yeah. Another option I was talking to someone about yesterday was like, we always talk about this idea of like, hey, I got to put this app out into the wild. but it doesn't need to run all of the time. So like, somebody came to me and said, well, I want to throw this on something like AWS, but it's going to cost me $50 a month. And I'm like, it will if it's up and running 24/7, but we don't always need to do that, right? What if I have like some kind of service that is, I always use the example of signing up people to my newsletter. That's going to happen 5 to 10 times a day. I don't need this up 24/7. I can just have a service that wakes up, responds to a request, and shuts down. So
I'm going to take it one step further. Your dev environment, your stage environment, the things that you're doing on that path to production, they don't need to be up all the time either.
Right.
So if there's nobody doing development in dev, why does dev exist? Why does, and this comes just, I have scar tissue. I've done the startup life where pennies mattered.
You have
If
memories.
nobody is using dev or stage, it shouldn't exist. Period. You know how many people have dev environments that are up right now? Yeah, I get it. Like it happens.
Everybody's
But why?
raising their hand.
Right. These are things that sometimes it's hard to get to that conversation when people are still worried about, oh, I'm still stuck on Spring Boot 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's all sorts of places where you can optimize. And what I found is that it's a bunch of tiny changes that make the big difference.
Yeah.
And here at this conference, I'm learning a bunch of little changes that I can do in my default settings that I can do to make a big difference, not just for me, but for our community.
That's awesome.
And I'm still jazzed about Jürgen, how excited he got about how we load and initialize our beans.
Yeah.
Just that passion. I want some of that.
Yeah. So he mentioned during the keynote 3.4 is going to come out in November. And then who knows? Some things are going to happen next year. So we might be on the path to something else.
Could be amazing.
Yeah.
Could be amazing. My fingers are crossed.
All right.
I'm excited.
Anything else you want?
Are there any questions? We got people from all over the world. Make sure you tell us where you're coming in from, because my mom and dad watch this.
Oh,
I love you, mom and dad.
hi, mom and dad. Yeah, everywhere. We got Egypt, France, India, Turkey, India,
Zimbabwe, South Korea, down the hall.
Germany, down the hall. Yeah, Thomas is upstairs.
This is great.
Brazil. Good morning from Brazil.
Well, hopefully this worked.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. I had fun.
This is much better than the last time we tried to live stream from VMware Explorer. That was Spring 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have the right equipment. So shout out
Thanks
to
again,
Sergey
Sergey.
for the equipment.
This is amazing.
This is awesome.
We're going to have to copy this.
Yes, for our road show.
Yes. We'll
We'll have to do more of
set up.
this. I got to look at the schedule. I don't know what else is going to happen today as far as sessions go, but I know I need to see some more.
There's
I need to
at
learn
least
more.
one more coming up that I would love to see you at.
This goes.
So yeah,
Cool.
well, this has been fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you guys for showing up here, for standing around. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Awesome.
All right. We are going to get a couple more scheduled. I think next week we'll kind of talk about the state of Spring. We have a Spring Boot 3.3 show to prepare for.
We gotta.
So I think we'll do that in not this coming Monday, but the following Monday.
That sounds good.
So we got a couple of shows that are going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to get back home, and take everything.
I gotta
from
update
this-
everything.
from
Update
this
all the palms.
conference, and yeah, I got a lot of code to update. So
Yes.
all right. Well, thanks again for
Wonderful.
everyone joining us here in the live stream, and thanks to everyone catching the replay or on the podcast. And we will see you in the next one. Goodbye from Spring IO.
Bye.